All right, then let's start with our topic. And at the beginning, the question: what is our topic actually? What did we want to talk about?
Yeah, so we talked a little bit about AI and potentials and maybe also dangers or side effects. But as I said, I would like to talk about technology in general, especially about the question whether we should fear or embrace technology, or even better, about integrating technology
Hmm. Hmm.
from a psychological perspective.
Yeah, psychological or philosophical?
Yeah, philosophical from a personal background, I'd say. So
Yeah,
you can use philosophy to gain insight into the world and then, yeah, apply it to improve your own well-being. So,
yeah, yeah. What first comes to my mind when you mention this? The fear of technology or the potential dangers, the potential benefits is this the Gauss curve of technology adaptation. I don't. It has a specific name, but maybe you know this. Like there's this Gauss distribution, and there are those early adopters and the early majority, late majority, and the I don't know. Like do you know this thing?
oh, I haven't seen this.
So it's basically the idea that there are like and you know the Gauss distribution, so it's basically this like bell-shaped curve and you cut it in slices and then you have those like the very tiny first piece of the curve where it just starts to go up. It's maybe I don't know 3% or something. Those are the people who just go in everything like they have to have the newest iPhone and TV and technology and stuff and they're super uncritical and just jump on the things and want to try it. And then there's this I think it's the next one is called early majority, so it's like the first I don't know 13% or something. Maybe that's not even the early majority, but then there are those people who are coming next who are like, ah, yeah, this sounds interesting. Okay, I'll wait for the first reviews coming out, and then I'll get it. Um, and then you can go on like that. And I think we all are at a different place in this curve for different kinds of
Hmm,
new things in our life.
okay.
Um, yeah, that just came to my mind as a sort of a
Hmm.
model. Um, yeah,
Yeah, it might actually be different for different areas, maybe also depending on your hobbies or something.
yeah,
But generally, I'd say I'll try to be in the middle.
yeah, yeah. What's your personal take on this AI thing coming up? What would you say? How does it make you feel? What is what is it creating for you?
Mm, yeah, I just have to start from a philosophical perspective. I think it's interesting how it changes our perception of reality, of what is real. Um, because yeah, it's uh, generating all these impressive videos and images, and not only are these close to what you would call photorealistic, or they get closer to this. But you can also use it to create fake news
Hmm.
and yeah, for deception and propaganda and whatever.
Yeah, yeah. And you said like it changes our idea of like what is real, or our perception of what is real. I think that's an interesting point also. Since you're a philosopher, also like what is real and like
Mhm,
how I think it's so hard to tell. And
mhm,
from my experience, the existence of this new technology forces us as a society to look into these points and to ask the question, okay, what does it mean to be human? What is ultimately what is the meaning of my life when let's say in 5 or 10 or whatever years I don't have to work anymore and there is nothing that maybe that where I'm like better than a machine. What is
Mhm.
the purpose of my life when I cannot do some kind of service that's useful for someone because there's a robot that's better in it? I think that's gonna raise up a lot of not even only interesting, but also very challenging for large parts of society. I would say very challenging questions.
Yeah, it's interesting how you respond to the question, what is real with yeah, basically life questions. What am I to do with my life under new or insecure circumstances? But yeah, what connects both these questions is that just how do I deal with insecurities when everything I took for granted so far falls apart in the extreme case.
Mhm.
It doesn't have to be that extreme, but maybe we have to consider this possibility.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm, but you can also use that as an invitation to be more present and maybe to not participate into too much hectic and sensationalism, both into the positive as well as the negative direction. And this is generally the path I try to take by now.
Yeah. Yeah. So take it more as a like as a gift of getting more present and like
Mhm.
not getting so lost in all our modern blinking worlds.
Exactly. I'd also say the future is already now.
Yeah.
We already have all these amazing technologies around us.
Mhm.
We are using technology for so-called telecommunication right now, but I'd say it's not that different from telepathy uh, regarding the experience we have in doing so.
Yeah.
It's basically like magic, and it's just the stuff we are used to by now. But for people 100 years ago, this would also have been completely amazing. So,
Yeah. Yeah. And maybe this is the like the classical human trap that we tend to go into, like, ah, there's this and this coming up. How can we prepare? How can we like anticipate it? And then completely forgetting about
mhm,
the here and now. And maybe who knows? Maybe none of us will live by the time when this AI technology is there. Who knows? Uh, so what
yeah.
what I what I noticed when like last weekend I had this call with a friend who sort of like woke me up a bit on this topic. Um, and then like I watched a few videos and noticed, okay, my body is doing some weird
Mhm,
stuff. Like I'm reacting to that emotionally. And then I went out on the street and had a walk, and I haven't been that present in
mm,
weeks. I noticed like this sort of like the possibility of the doomsday
mhm,
ahead sort of brought me to like, okay, but it's not here yet. So I'm gonna enjoy this day, and it's sunny, and I can feel the wind, and I really enjoy being on the street right now. And let's have a look what I can see there and experience. And I hope that's also a road that we will discover more and more to take.
mhm. Yeah, I hope so too, and it's great that you reacted that way, of course.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, but I think this also points to some unconscious dimensions of technology. And I would also like to suggest a sort of philosophical framework which kind of grants you access to think about technology in a psychological way in the first place,
Mhm.
because this rarely happens. There is seldom contemplation regarding technology, and it's also quite interesting when you delve into the history of philosophy of technology. You will find that the ancient Greeks, they did not have this overarching concept of technology.
Mhm.
They considered technological objects, maybe in contrast to natural objects, but there was not this idea of wow, technology,
Mhm.
um, which is only a couple of hundred years old, I think.
This concept of wow,
Yeah,
this is amazing technology.
yeah, of technology and its promise of progress, or maybe also fear of decline because of
Mhm.
technology.
Yeah.
Um, and what is this technology? What do you mean by this concept, which we write as a big writing into the sky,
Yeah.
when it's not identical with the numerous different technological objects in our world?
You said like it's a few hundred years old, this concept, or the maybe the distinction of this bright new shiny technology.
I
Um,
must admit, I don't know the exact point in history when the idea of technology as a unifying principle
yeah,
arose, I mean.
yeah.
But it's a quite modern idea that there is this progress, especially technological progress. And this invites us to question this idea. What do you mean by it in the first place? Which is a classical philosophical question. What is technology? And I brought a little rock. So you would call this a natural or physical, and especially non-technological object at first. But in the Stone Age, people started using it as a tool, and then they made hand axes by cutting pieces out and so on. And when I take this device, you could argue that this is a complex arrangement of tools similar to this rock, but in reality, it isn't any different on a fundamental level.
Mhm.
Um,
You mean in terms of there are some particles in there and they have some kind of interactions and like it's all matter connected in a
yeah,
complicated way.
when I drop them, they both fall. They both
Yeah.
obey gravitation and so on. Um,
And maybe you can do things with the stone we haven't discovered yet.
yeah, and this is also an interesting aspect. You can also use this thing in many different ways. I can use it even without switching it on. I can use it as a mirror, and yeah, I could also beat stuff using this thing. Who tells me I have to use it to text or telephone? And
Yeah.
um, and this led me to the idea that technological objects never exist in and of themselves. They only exist as our own projection.
Mhm.
So we recognize technological objects by the functions we ascribe to them, but these functions are in the end always our own ideas.
Mhm.
It's the ideas we have about them in advance.
So could you say it's a little bit about like with money that it's like some kind of piece of paper for a dog it's like
Mhm.
super meaningless and for us it's the world?
Exactly. You could say that money is a technology itself, maybe.
Uh-huh.
Um, Maybe not, but there are many parallels, definitely, yeah.
Mhm. So you would maybe the only distinction is like what can I use the particular thing for? Like you could, as you said, like a stone, you can use it for you can throw it, you can look at it, you can sniff it, or I don't know, like rub your skin with it or whatever. Like there's probably 100 uses for a stone and uh, a few more with the smartphone. And that's maybe a distinction. Could we say it like that?
Yes, for sure. But yeah, the interesting thing about the modern view of technology, I think, is that technology is this kind of autonomous progress, which is inevitable to some degree, and which we have only limited control over.
Mhm,
Um, and right now, I like to think that what we consider modern technology is something like the collective shadow of modern man.
mhm,
Um, it's precisely parts of its own psyche which he has not integrated.
yeah. Is it is it not also I sometimes wonder, I watched a video in the morning about, like, who's gonna be the first one to build, artificial general intelligence, and the question of, if OpenAI, as an example, like being at the forefront of this development, if they wouldn't have to be integrated into a government organization or the military or so because of the potential consequences of what they're developing. And then I thought, oh well, there are probably many entities in this world trying to, like, out of a fear of, oh, this other company or this other country could develop it first and could get ahead of us, so
Mm,
we have to be the first ones. And in my perception, this dynamic is driving technological development. It's a strong force, that
mm,
fear of. And I imagine, like, in medieval times, and still until today, like the development of weapons, like we have to be better than others in order to beat them. And
mm,
this I imagine is a strong driver of technological development, which is purely psychological
mm,
origin. Like if the whole world would agree, okay, we stop working on technology today, and we just use what we have, and go on from there, there would not be any advance, I imagine, in technology.
mm. Yeah, probably. But you also have to acknowledge that technology is incredibly powerful. And so maybe you are right in saying that it's a driver, the fear that we are going to be left behind and are going to lose connection to technological progress. But yeah, even if I said before that we only recognize technology by our own implicit values and ideas, it's still incredibly powerful in the outer world, right? Um, we can fly through the air now. We can travel to the moon, which was also incredibly amazing to the ancient Greek or whoever.
Yeah.
Um, and so this is creating an even further level, which is that although we only see technology through our own ideas, it somehow grants us this very real power in the outer world.
Hmm.
And the question would then be, how does this power relate to our mind?
Hmm.
Mm, And I think this is also a question that is seldom addressed today, although it can be very deep, and you don't have to follow me there, but by now I like to think that technology isn't only like magic, but that it actually is some sort of magic, which a human can apply to the world in some way that we maybe can't even understand on a rational level.
Uh-huh. How do you come to that conclusion?
It's partly because I have to be a little biographic here. As you know, I studied physics, and there I learned how to approach the world through facts and numbers and data and develop formulas to calculate stuff. But at the same time, I always believed that language always has its limits and that r- reality as a whole goes far beyond language. So
Mhm.
also far beyond that which we can articulate and that which, yeah, can also be articulated in a mathematical way and so on.
Yeah.
Um, and by now I have the impression we use all these formulas to do stuff, and this is similar to magic, where you also
Uh-huh.
have magical formulas to do stuff which is also not um, translatable into language. So there's always this procedural aspect, this doing and achieving, which goes beyond language.
Mhm. There's this this the that classical book from China from the it's on the tip of my tongue. I don't
You mean an ancient book or
yeah, an ancient book like
the Tao
from
Te Ching?
yeah,
Mm,
yeah, that one.
okay.
Um yeah. There's this quote in an I have an audiobook version of it, and I don't know if it's from the Tao Te Ching or if that author put it in yeah, in the preface of the book, but it says like words are like fingers pointing to the moon,
Mm,
something like
yeah,
that. And for
yeah.
me, that's what I experience also in meditation and all these like I don't know, more spiritual approaches to
Mhm,
this here. That I think okay, language and our logical means to like using our rational tools to access what's here is one way of putting it and super limited and it's never and I think like this touches to the concept of dualism and like it's never the truth like in the moment I name you as a human being, I create a distinction that's in my brain, and that's not really the truth or like I'm sort of like limiting you and limiting the world
mm,
by creating this concept.
mhm,
Um, that's like coming up for me as you talk about it.
mhm, yeah. Limiting is a fitting term because definition doesn't mean anything else. It means creating a limit,
Uh-huh.
finite,
Ah,
uh,
define. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
define. Yeah, yeah,
Finite, or some like the Latin. That's
yeah.
cool. Yeah. Thanks for that one. Yeah,
Mhm,
makes total sense. It's also like, yeah, when you make a definition, it's like, okay, let's create a boundary. What are we
yeah.
talking about here? And this, I'm thinking of this classical like biology and physics and all these like natural sciences in the I don't know 18 1900s where they categorized everything and this is these are mammals and these are like I don't know different types of frogs and nature doesn't give a beep about these distinctions that we make
Mhm,
there are probably uh, hundreds of more types of frogs and animals and stuff in between which we just haven't seen yet.
Mhm.
Um, yeah.
Yeah. It's also, something which, drove me in my philosophy about technology, that we have this fundamental discipline of physics which is called mechanics.
Mhm.
So, this is already a technological term, um, but physics should be the doctrine of nature, physis in Greek.
Mhm.
Um, and I always had the impression that this whole idea of mechanics and also this ordering you just mentioned in biology, which is called taxonomy, I think, it's somewhat closer to creationism than to actual naturalism. So even if you deny the idea that there is a creator which created the world via intelligent design, you still use this mechanic way of thinking about nature by ascribing specific and unique functions also to organs in the human body and so
Yeah.
on, instead of recognizing that these functions too are things we ascribe
Yeah.
to these organs.
Yeah.
And maybe there are numerous different levels and complex interactions we don't see it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I wanna make a comment to that, but first also say I really like this what you are bringing into this, like looking at the actual meaning of words.
Mm,
That's something I experience like for me that always there is so much, and I find that is a bit of magic. Like language creates
mm,
reality and like can be a
yeah.
sort of magic. When you look into the actual origin, there is so much that we don't usually see in our day-to-day life. But if you look at that, like the definition of the word definition, and
Mm,
suddenly, like you get this enlightenment moment. And um, what else? What else did I wanna comment on? The what was the last thing we were talking about?
I talked about this mechanistic way
Yeah.
of looking at nature, which in my mind is closer to creationism than to naturalism.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There. I got it again. When I look into these image or video generation AI uh, tools that we have now, and then learned about that AI can create a world in video that's exactly like that's photoreal for us, but it doesn't have a clue about what it generated there. That gives me an interesting perspective on this kind of like there is a creator who made the laws of physics and who put it all nicely together. That's putting a big question mark to that one for me.
Mm,
Like the, we don't know. There could be like there could be so many other possibilities for our universe to have started, or maybe it has never started. Maybe like this
yeah.
whole idea of us creating it in the moment, like if you put an AI in our brain
Mhm.
that could create that for us, so
Mm,
we really don't know anything.
yeah. And usually I try to avoid comparing people or living beings to machines,
Uh-huh.
but in some aspects, our mind, yeah, it's also often driven by some mysterious forces which we hardly can fathom ourselves.
Yeah.
I strongly believe in the idea that there are unconscious processes.
Mm.
Um, as I said, I believe technology itself is somewhat the shadow of modern man,
Yeah.
which is also a term from Carl Gustav Jung. which basically means the unconscious.
yeah,
Um, and I would like to synthesize what I think makes modern technology scary, and I don't think it's the it's power or the possibility of side effects, at least not primarily. I think what makes it primarily scary is that it exactly does what we tell it to.
uh-huh,
It's not that it doesn't do something different, it's that it does what
yeah,
we tell it, because that's not how our own psyche works. We always want some things, but we are always very inconsistent about that. It's very hard to figure out what we actually want, and we always have these desires and goals that we want to achieve, but when we achieve them, we realize, oh, maybe that's not what I actually wanted.
mhm,
So human will often sabotages itself or undermines itself. It's always fluctuating and ever changing. And this aspect is missing in technology, I guess.
yeah. Maybe it could also be just like a larger playground for our psyche, that like we have this idea of, okay, I want to achieve this, I want to build a house, and now with the technology you can just do it like this, and you see, oh, this is not the house that I wanted, so you make
Mhm.
this and you destroy it and you build another one, or like, I'm just making up a weird scenario, but maybe this is some kind of like just a bigger theater scene that we can like play in, and maybe also like that has greater effects on us and the world. um and I'm looking a bit at the time, so we're in this free Zoom version that's gonna cut off in 2:55, 2 minutes. Um, so I would like to wrap it up here, and say that I really enjoyed this talk, and I can imagine doing that again in a few days or weeks. Also, I also think we have almost 45 minutes, so it's probably good to make a point and create another episode
Mhm.
or whatever we call it. Yeah, thanks a lot for your sharing your perspective. I enjoy talking to you about it, and I find that it helps me create a way to perceive reality. Like it changes something when we like ping pong these
Mhm.
concepts.
Yeah. I also like talking to you because you're not a philosopher, and it's always good to ground these ideas
Yeah,
in a less, um, yeah, less academic way, especially.
yeah.
And you're usually, as I know you more about life and doing things, and this is exactly what I need right now. So,
Yeah,
yeah, I
happy to
would be
hear.
glad
So
to have
we're a
another
good
talk soon.
match.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Then I'd say we end the recording here.